morning, everyone. How do we get new ideas from lab to market? What's the role of collaboration between tech centers, EU clusters, and those clusters that connect also with SMEs and startups? Well, welcome to this cluster talk. I'm Chris Burns. This is a series organized by the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, ECCP. That's about 1,500 organizations on behalf of DG Grow at the European Commission. On the agenda today, we're going to get cluster news first. We'll have a couple of presentations talking about the European Monitor of Industrial Ecosystems project on a tech center mapping tool and so forth. And then we'll also have Slido questions more than once, tapping your brains on what you think, your feedback. But part of this is feedback from everyone out there. And then we'll have a panel discussion involving you as well, because we want you to be part of this. So you see all the speakers there. And let me give you some tech tips. The Slidos, we'll be talking with you via slido.com, or you can use the QR code you'll see later. And through the Zoom function, we have a Q&A button at the bottom. You can probably see there, or the button at the bottom to raise your hand if you want to ask a question directly. You can also chat, and checking that chat part of it is very important because it's a two-way street with everyone, also with the European Commission watching, to give your feedback and get more information. And just keep an eye on that because there's a lot of good back and forth on that also with the speakers. Hashtag EU Clusters Talks. Hashtag EU Clusters Talks. Very important. If you hear something great to cast wider, please do. And this is recorded for playback. And the slides that you will see in the presentations would sometimes have a lot of information. You can go back to those. There's lots of information. You can go back to those on the cluster site. Well, let's get started with news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform with Angela Negrete, a team member of the ECCP. Angela, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone. Okay, we will start with a save the date. We will have 10-11 April this year, the EU-Ukraine Business Summit. This is a great opportunity to explore with other businesses, other companies, possibilities and opportunities for the Ukraine's reconstruction within the European industrialization. We provide you here in the chat the link to look at more information and also to register yourself for participating in this interesting summit. There will be in March the next City Lab. We are going to welcome you in Zaragoza. This City Lab is, as you already may know, a workshop-style event. It lasts 1.5 days, and in this time, the workshop is going to be focused on artificial intelligence. You can see the topics proposed, not close to these topics, because every interesting idea for European priorities projects are welcome. You can also start your registration, and the next after Zaragoza will be in Denmark, in Esbjerg. Very soon is going to come more information on the ECCP website. Speaking about more events, don't miss the opportunity to join the cluster meet regions. You can register now for Eindhoven, 27 March, and very soon also registration open for Heilbronn. You will find also here more information about Portugal and Alentejo, Palma in Spain, and also Poland. And we will finish with a quick view to the topic of today. This is an invite for you to check the European Monitor of Industrial Ecosystems within the umbrella of the Technology Center Mapping Tool. There is also the possibility to subscribe to a quarterly newsletter. And yeah, we invite you to stay tuned for during the session and discover more about these possibilities offered by the European Commission. And with that, I give you back the floor, Chris. Thank you very much.
That's great, Angela. Muchas gracias. Yeah, that newsletter, by the way, it's a two-way street, also, isn't it? That people can actually
Right.
communicate with it, and
That's
it
right.
gathers information of what's going out there in the field with everybody. Okay, let's move on to the two presentations: collocation of technology. Sorry about that. An insight into technology centers, mapping. Els van der Veld, senior expert of competitiveness and innovation at IDEA Consult. You're working with local, national governments in Belgium plus the EU. You're a former professor of management and innovation at the University of Ghent, right? And you used to be at OECD, right?
That is correct.
So yeah, a lot of good credentials there to talk about this. Let's hear it.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. And it's my pleasure to present you today the Technology Center Mapping and to give you a bit of an insight in what it is. This is an initiative that already has been existing for many years at DG Grow, being hosted at DG Grow. And it has been our pleasure to work with the colleagues of DG Grow to further enhance this Technology Center Mapping. So if I go to the next slide, the European Monitoring of Industrial Ecosystems is a project we are doing for DG Grow in collaboration, of course, with ISMEA. And the main aim there is really to monitor the performance of industrial ecosystems. As you probably know, DG Grow has identified 14 industrial ecosystems, among those agri-food, construction, mobility, and various others. And for those ecosystems, it's very important, at least from a Commission perspective, to monitor the green and the digital transformation of those industrial ecosystems. And this is really what we're trying to do here in this project, trying to identify the indicators and trying to showcase what is truly happening within those industrial ecosystems. On the next slide, you will see the monitoring framework we have developed. And why I want to show this, I won't go into much detail, but there are 5 main pillars that we want to capture. The first pillar is basically the technology generation, so how much technology is being generated in each of the various industrial ecosystems. The second pillar wants to have a closer look at the uptake. And there is where technology center mappings is very important because it shows something about the potential of countries, of institutions to upskill technology and to make sure that SMEs, that startups and spin-off companies can truly take the knowledge and commercialize it, deploy it towards the markets. We also have a pillar that rather looks at investments and funding, both from a public point of view, what is the public funding they receive, but also the private funding, what some of the capital investments, and we also look at FDI data. A fourth pillar is skills demand and supply, where we look both at supply and demand of skills. And lastly, we have a pillar on competitiveness. And as you will see in the next presentation of my colleague Vincent, we have also tried to combine some of the industrial performance data with the technology center mapping data. If I then go to the next slide, what is the technology center mapping? The technology center mapping is truly a tool that tries to map the technology centers available in the various member states. And what is a technology center? Because there was a lot of terms. There is infrastructure, there is research infrastructure, technology infrastructure. Well, for us, a technology center is truly the organization that is hosting several infrastructures, that is really helping SMEs deploying technology towards the market to make sure that technology moves from lab to market.
Els,
So
can
in
you
the
explain
definition,
that how SMEs cross the valley of death? I guess that's the challenges they face, right?
to make true that all of the wonderful knowledge developed in our in the various member states are truly being deployed and uptake.
Yeah.
And that is what truly technology centers aim to support in, to make sure that there is a true uptake of that technology.
Yeah. Good.
And so basically our technology center mappings try to list those technology centers. We have some inclusion criteria, as you can see, and why to make sure that The technology center mapping does not aim to map universities, but truly those centers that are more active into the higher TRL phases, so a TRL 3 to 8, truly making sure that there is indeed, that they do projects with SMEs, that there is equipment available to help SMEs and other companies to deploy innovation. So for the qualitative criteria, those need to be addressed to all of the centers in order to be eligible to apply. The quantitative, there we only acquire 2 out of 4. Why? Because sometimes, of course, it depends on the project, how many major investments you can truly do, or how many industrial funding or project with SMEs you can do. So there we look a bit at the broader time scale and also allow for you to only apply or be eligible for 2 out of 4. More information on this can be found on the website, and that is also shown on the next slide. So I invite all of you to go to the website to check which of the technology centers are truly there within your region, within your country.
They're
Because we
also in the
aim to be
chat too.
exhaustive.
If you look on the chat, you can see you can click on those links, I believe.
And indeed, and I invite all of you to do so. So on the left-hand side, you see how the technology center looks like, and you will see that we allow to filter on additional ecosystems or on technologies or TRL level. And on the right-hand side, I just added a slide to show that indeed we already have quite some technology centers. We cover currently all of the EU 27 member states. As you can see, we have various ones in the larger member states like Spain and France, but also some less middle or smaller member states like Belgium, Finland, Ireland. There's actually quite a lot of activity already of technology centers being active in our mapping. But please, I invite all of you, have a look. And if you identify that a technology center is not yet on our mapping, please invite them to apply. The application is open the entire time, and there's a very regular assessment of technology centers that apply. So please do send the invitation to those technology centers in case we would miss them, or in case you notice, which also sometimes happens, that the technology center has changed names and we still have the old name. Please feel free to contact us and to make sure that the mapping is as relevant and up to date as possible. What do we offer for the SMEs? If I go to the next slide, a technology center profile. I here took the example, a Spanish example of NATEC, which is truly a technology center. So we ask for a description that the technology center has provided. And what is also essential for the mapping is that there is a contact person. Why? Because as we know, most of the SMEs truly want to contact, to reach out to, in this case, Martin Flores, to see like, what can you do? I looked at your services that you have. I looked at your description. I'm interested. He wants to have a response for somebody. So hence, for us, the contact person and the location is very important. And then on the next slide, the second important part for us on the mapping is a description. What is the equipment that the technology center can offer? Ideally with a link to the website, because the website is always the most up-to-date information so that you can truly see as an SME what is the current equipment that the technology center has available, and also the services offered. That for us, again, as part of the technology center mapping is very important. The services offered to the SMEs to truly help them to deploy the innovation. This was in a nutshell what the technology center mapping is all about, but I invite all of you to have a look, and of course, very happy to address any questions you might have in this regard. Thank you.
Els, thank you. That's fantastic. Wonderful. This is all part of that big picture that the Draghi and Letta reports were calling for, and becoming more competitive. This is kind of like part of the engine room of how that works, and that's great to see that. Thanks very much, Els. So let's move on to your colleague, Vincent Van Rooij, on collocation of technology centers and cluster organizations. Vincent, you're in charge. You're in charge of expert innovation, competitiveness, and sustainability at IDEA Consult. You're a former research fellow at the European Commission and policy officer, so it's very interesting to have that background. Let's hear about the highlights of the work you've been doing in the last few months.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the organizers of having us here today to be able to present this work that is part of the European monitoring of industrial ecosystems and focuses on the collocation of technology centers and cluster organizations. And within this part of the project, we have been focusing on exploiting the information of the technology center mapping database and the ECCP by producing 8 reports that each of them focus on a specific ecosystem, as for instance, agri-foods, construction, mobility, energy-intensive industries. The objective of this work are three objectives. The first objective is to provide a large-scale mapping of technology centers and cluster organizations at the regional level, that's NUTS 2 level in Europe. Second objective is to identify in which advanced technologies these technology centers and cluster organizations are active. And there we focus on the technologies that are particularly important for the green and digital transition. And the third objective, which is the most important for today's talk, is to analyze the co-location of technology centers and cluster organizations at the regional level and to gain more insights on the mutual benefits of these co-locations. Now, going to the next slides, this slide is more related to the second objective, where we highlight or analyze in which technology centers and cluster organizations are active. As an example, here I provide then the distribution that we can see for technology centers active in green technologies. So 60% of them are active in the renewable energy. Slightly more than half of them are active in biotech and advanced materials. And to a lesser extent, we see technology centers focusing on recycling, clean production, energy saving. And this type of distributions have been produced both for the green technologies as for the digital technologies. Digital technologies relate, for instance, to robotics, artificial intelligence, IoT, augmented reality, and blockchain, for instance, and have been also produced for the cluster organizations. And on top of the linking of advanced technologies to centers and clusters, we also have on the next slide identified well, the regional co-location. And so we produce maps as the one that you can see here on the slides, where we give the example for green technologies. And so at the NUTS 2 level, we highlight which regions have no technology centers or clusters active, which ones have only technology centers or only clusters, and which regions have a co-location. And in terms of technology centers, for instance, the highest concentrations are can be seen in the Basque Country, Rhone-Alpes, and Catalonia. These centers are also highly active, given the presence of prominent technology centers as SEA, as LITAT or ERCAT in Spain. And we have produced these types of graphs also for the digital technologies. On the next slide, as an example, for instance, in the digital technologies, we then try to highlight well, prominent examples that we can see about the co-location benefits of cluster organizations and technology centers. In this case, for instance, we built Denmark that collaborates with Force Technology in projects on advanced sensor technology systems that are particularly important for the construction ecosystem. So these type of examples we try to include as many as possible in the ecosystem report. So we have many of these types of examples where we highlight, for instance, collaborations on joint R&D projects, on training development, or on mutual benefits of participating to events, for instance. And so that's the aim of this ecosystem report, that besides the regional mapping, we also try to understand what are the mutual benefits for both institutions. On the next slide, we also looked at the location patterns at regional level, and we see that by looking at regions with more than 2 cluster organizations, that there is indeed a positive relationship, so that regions with a higher presence of technology centers also exhibit a higher presence of cluster organizations. And this might hint at a co-location preference. And this is also something that we will talk later about with you in the debates, to hear more about the benefits of cluster organizations to look at in close proximity to technology centers. So we have seen, for instance, examples where cluster organizations are also located in the premises of technology centers to be close to the technology development, for instance. On the next slides, we provide, for instance, another example, in this case in Lithuania for the mobility industrial ecosystem, where the Baltic Automotive Components Cluster is actively collaborating with several of its members For instance, the Kaunas Technology University Technology Center, it has a center on innovation and entrepreneurship, has in 2019 signed an official cooperation agreement with Continental, which is another member of BACC. Or, for instance, BACC is also actively collaborating with the Center for Physical Science and Technologies on a project aiming to foster STEAM education in Lithuania, which is partly important to have the right workforce for the mobility industrial ecosystem in Lithuania. Another example relates to the aerospace and defense industry on the next slides, where the Aerospace Technology District, which is active in aerospace technologies and supporting unarmed aerial systems or satellite systems and advanced materials, is collaborating with the European Research Center for Technological Design and Materials. And there we highlight two particular R&D projects that aim to improve the development and the production of aircrafts, one related to aircraft wings through the use of optimized composite materials, another one related to the aircraft tails, where production is improved through smart factory production systems. And so in those ecosystems report, we have many of these mutual benefits examples. And so we aim to highlight where we can find concrete examples, but we would like to hear from you also concrete success stories later on in these presentations, as this will help us to improve our ecosystem reports. On the next slides is another part of the reports that we conducted, as Els introduced before in our presentation. We didn't only look at the regional collocation, but we also tried to link it to the economic performance of countries. This analysis is done at country level because we don't have the production trade and patents indicators specific to each ecosystem at region level. And so maps that we provide as an example here for the mobility ecosystem, you will see that Spain, Italy, Germany have high collocation patterns and are also those countries with high performances in production trade and patents within the mobility ecosystem. Important here, the caveat to mention is that you will see some countries with no collocations. Obviously, it's important to know that here we work with the data of the ECCP platform and the technology center mapping, which is not complete on the one hand. And on the second hand is that due to our web scraping techniques, as I mentioned before, sometimes due to websites that are not updated, certain cluster organizations are not included in the mapping. So we invite you also to look at the ECCP platform and update any web pages that might be outdated. In the next slides, I provide then, for instance, another example for France in the mobility ecosystem, where the European Cluster for Mobility Solutions is collaborating with SEA and Centum TS. SEA, for instance, is participating to the Mobility Tech Days that is organized by CARA to present and showcase their innovations and their technology developments within the transport sector. And the Centum TS is participating, for instance, in the CARA Power project, which is a project to present experimental or develop an experimental platform for power electronics with usage in mobility. So this is in a nutshell what we have been doing in the latest months related to the co-location of technology mapping, technology center mapping cluster organizations. Happy to answer any of your questions and to further participate in the debate later today. Thank you very
Vincent,
much.
hi, thank you. I've got a question here from someone. How come you have 52.9% of tech centers in biotech when the mapping on the website, there are only a couple of centers under health and agri-food? Can you answer that? Seems to be a discrepancy, supposedly.
I think we didn't show any mapping of agri-food or health. What we actually do to capture centers active in biotech is that we constructed keyword directories and dictionaries, and we web scraped the website of technology centers and cluster organizations in search for these biotech related keywords.
Okay.
And this works relatively well to identify technology centers and cluster organizations. Why? Because we actually exploited also information of the technology center mapping, where technology centers were asked to fill in which technologies they are active. And we found a very good match. We used that information as a control for our web scraping approach. And we found a very good match with what technology centers claim to be active in and what we could outline through the web scraping. And so that's the way we identify in which technologies, clusters or technology centers are active in.
Okay, very good. I hope that answered the question. They sounded like it to me, and web scraping, very interesting term I've never heard of. That's really very interesting. Vincent, thank you very much. Please stay on because we might have to come back to you else as well. Now, before we go to the panel debate, let's go to the Slido. Our first Slido, and you can connect either with that QR code or slido.com and then hashtag tech_centers, CENTRES. Here's the first question. To what extent do you believe technology centers and clusters are effectively collaborating at present? How is that working from where you see it? Is it very well or some or limited? Okay. So far it's yes, there's some of that, but more effort needed. That seems to be the dominant one. Always room for improvement. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next, second question. Which technological advancements, industrial challenges, or innovation areas should clusters and technology centers prioritize? What should be the priority in those collaboration efforts? And this is a word cloud, so you can type in what you want. What tech advancements, challenges, innovation areas should be priority for clusters and tech centers? So we see AI. We saw yesterday at the AI summit in Paris that the EU's has earmarked, I believe, 200 billion for AI. So that is being addressed. Very competitive with the other economic giants in the world. Defense is number 2 there, but we also see low-cost automation and robotics, tech neutrality, green transition, industrial 4.0, energy efficiency, net zero. A lot of priorities there. City lead innovation, right. Water. A lot of issues on people's minds. Very good. Okay, well, let's move to the panel debate. Let's start with Inge Arends, Managing Director at Flanders Food. That's an innovation platform for agri-food industry. Inge used to be with the Flanders Innovation and Entrepreneurship, IWT, for a number of years. You also were at Van der Mortelle, which is a bakery products company that now also works in plant-based food. Let me ask you about a successful partnership that you have seen in working between R&D and small businesses, and then facilitated by a cluster.
Maybe it's a long story, Chris. Good morning, everybody.
Okay. Give us the headlines.
So I think everybody that is involved with clusters, they know that one of our biggest things we are doing is bringing people together, bringing companies together, and also find the way opportunities and challenges are on the but and for us it's food industry, and to see if we can find also some generic solutions and also find good partners for the food companies. In that way, I think I will have to disappoint a little bit Vincent already, that in the way Flanders Food is doing the approach of cluster working, I don't think we have to sit very near to one technological center. So we are like in the middle, a virtual middle of a lot of technological centers. So it would be very difficult for me to make a choice which one is then the best to sit in the premises of them. So the example I have is there a cookie baker. It's biscuits. It's I don't know if you see it. I have the cookies here. They're very nice cookies.
Good.
From the
I
company
like the show and tell.
La Confiance. It's SME in Flanders, and they make a traditional baked cookie. And normally you have a skilled baker standing at the end of the oven, looking at all the cookies coming out, and that person is deciding if the oven has to be adjusted in temperature and speed and things like that. But it's very difficult in Flanders to find skilled people, and then it's a loss of your very good person that is just standing there the whole day at the line. He can make new recipes, do other stuff. So, and in that way, the company was asking us, how can you help us with this problem? And we, at that moment, we had an Horizon 2020 project, S3 Foods in Oesup, it's with Cascade funding. And then we were able to also allocate vouchers from 60,000 euro for an SME. And we had a call that they had to collaborate with other SMEs, and then they could have 180,000 euro to do a little scale solution. And La Confiance came together with the technology provider Yazoom, another SME at that time, a specialist in visual inspection, and also a constructor of ovens in the Netherlands. And that collaboration ended up that Yazoom, with the technology provider and the vision inspection and the oven manufacturer, together they found a solution that in a more earlier time, even in the oven, the color could be inspected. The oven knew itself, like artificial intelligence, like, no, the color is not okay, I have to adjust my temperature. So you come up to an autonomic process, and the company ends up with a skilled baker available for better things like product development. But at the same time, they have also noticed that they had a less food waste. So there was a second effect also, a better rentability, so better competitiveness, and also losses of food were not there. So as a cluster, then we also get inspired, and then we say, yeah, this is just one SME. We have a lot of SMEs. How can we now find solutions? We don't have cascade funding for all SMEs, so we have to find other solutions. And then we found the Technological Center series. It's the collective center for the technological centers industry, so not for the food industry, but they are the specialists of the companies like Yazoom and the oven constructor, because those were the people that found the solution. So we went to them and we said, how can we develop together a more generic platform, a more generic approach for the artificial intelligence and food industry, and together with IMEC, because they also have a lot of sensor vision inspection know-how.
Right.
So they also,
Leuven,
because in Leuven, yeah. So we combined, and then we had
Know
AI Pathfinder. So it's finding the way for food industry towards artificial intelligence and autonomous processes. And this is then a collaboration project where we are almost at the end of this project, and we see there are 6 phases. So the first of all is you have to find the sensor. So you really need the technological providers that are making the vision inspection or other sensor systems. So we have to collaborate with Ciris to find their members or then the technological providers. So that's a very important part to work with them. And then we will need solutions for connectivity. We will need solutions to build models, how the data will be translated into actions. And at a certain moment, you can go to autonomic processes. So together in that collaboration, a Pathfinder, we can find the different blocks that are important for food SMEs to go to all the steps. And now we will further collaborate with the Technological Center in finding ways to bring SMEs in those blocks. And then they will be also the advisors for SMEs. So we also bring together the experts of series with food SMEs for then individual confidential implementations. So this is the way we are collaborating with the Technological Center and different aspects of their know-how, because they have more connection with companies, because they have the experts, but we have the connection with the food SMEs. So as a cluster, we bring people together and to find the solutions. But you need the expertise and also the labs. So they also have the House of Manufacturing. So they have more demonstration room. We don't build the demonstrators ourselves. They have them. So we bring the food companies to the Technological Center to see everything, how it works. So that's a way that we can collaborate with the Technological Center. And it's one of the examples because there are different technological centers in Flanders. So we collaborate with different ones also.
Okay, very good. Very good, Inga. That's wonderful. I want to come back to you. Let's move on to Michal Zemko, Executive Director of Comtes, FHT in the Czech Republic. That's a complete technological service, research organization providing R&D in metallurgy and heat treatment, in engineering, automotive, power. Knowing that, Michal, what are the roles of tech centers and clusters? What's that link? We heard a little bit about that from Inga. What concrete example can you give me on that link, the role of tech centers and clusters?
Okay, thank you, Chris. Good morning to everyone. So I will talk about this connection in the perspective of Pilsen region in Czech Republic. Yes, here we have, and it was glad to see on the map that we have both. We have technological centers and cluster also, so we are in the better part of map. And in terms of tech centers, we have more of them because there are universities, there is Comtes FHT as private owned small tech center. So it also acts as SME because Comtes is SME, 100 employees. And so it's medium, not small, but it's still SME. And the collaboration with the cluster is, I would say, essential, especially in the region, because cluster of mechatronics is mostly the members are from Pilsen region, and it's a platform for communication, for building new networks, for compiling consortia for different projects, and also to build new commercial relationships between members. Maybe the concrete example, thanks to the new members of cluster mechatronics, Comtes has opportunity to find partner for research of lightweight parts for robotics and handling equipment with Strkan. But on the other hand side, this company allows and was a good partner from opposite side for the contest, that we ordered something from Strkan for our optimization projects and so on. Yes, so it's this proximity, close proximity, and having a platform for collaboration, I think is mutually beneficial from a different point of view.
What about, I mean, we got tech centers and we have companies.
Mm.
Can you say a little bit more about, as president of the Cluster Mechatronica, which I should have mentioned earlier, how is that your cluster a catalyst for that? I mean, couldn't a company just call up an R&D center? How do you add to that?
Okay, so I think the most important part of this platform are events and meetings. I think we are relatively strong with organizing different kinds of events, meetups, small fairs, or seminars. And we are most of our events are not only for Pilsen region, but are Czech Bavarian, because we are in very close proximity to the Bavarian region. And this is another important aspect to not only collaborate, because of the Pilsen region from your perspective, it's small, of course, and we are in close proximity to Bavaria. So it is a natural partner for us for another collaboration. So we have quite long success story building both commercial and public granted partnerships with partners from Bavaria. So mostly personal meetings for sure, and events like these small fairs or meetups. I think this works the best at the moment.
Okay, great. Let me move to Katarzyna Podana, Executive Director of Cluster Mechatronica, also of the Czech Republic. So you're Executive Director of Cluster Mechatronica. And your members include industrial electronics, 3D printing, scanning, robotics, automation tools, welding, computer modeling, quite a wide gamut of tech firms. Can we do a little bit of troubleshooting? Can I make you a troubleshooter and tell me how your cluster helps to overcome barriers?
Yeah, hello to everyone.
And by the way, welcome, Braz. Braz just joined us. Nice to see you, Braz Costa. We'll get to you right after that. Thanks, Katarzyna. Go ahead.
Yeah, troubleshooting. Maybe it's to your last question also. Why should there be a cluster when an SME can just phone to an R&D? They won't do it mostly because they don't understand each other. I'm sorry to say it aloud, but sometimes the researchers are just too deep in the science and too deep in what they do, which type of microscope they use and how great it is. But the SME just needs a result, an output, or just a small hint how to adjust their facilities and whatever. And maybe also what Inge said about the proximity of technology centers and cluster. There is also one thing I want to mention, and that's trust, because we are really neighbors here in Dobřany, in the Pilsen region. And I think I have the trust of the researchers. I can go there and ask, oh, can you help these and these SMEs? This one has a problem with titanium sheets. They need to know how they should adjust their facilities, their machines. Can you help them? This is, by the way, just an example of an R&D project which two of our members have done. So this is also something where clusters are really, really needed, I think.
Okay, that's really good to know. Let me move then to Braz Costa, General Manager of CITEV, Technological Center specialized in textile and clothing technologies. You're also CEO of CENTI, which is a center for nanotechnology and smart materials. I know nanotechnology is important in textiles, for instance. Can you give us an example of a success story where there's that linkage between clusters and with a tech center and an SME?
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. It's an honor to be here today with you. First, I must mention that for us, clusterization is the same of innovation, organization for innovation. For this reason, in Portugal, around textiles and clothing technologies, we decided to integrate everything. So the textile cluster in Portugal is managed by the Technological Center for Textiles and Clothing Industries. We have a specific department dedicated to the management of the cluster with independence in terms of technical issues, but of course integrated in the several departments of Technological Center. By definition, a cluster includes as well technological centers, universities, training centers, companies, and so on. our experience is very interesting. Why? Because first of all, clusterization is not only one sector. In our cluster, the two main pillars of our activity are collaboration, of course, but as well interclusterization. Why? Because when we talk about textiles, we are talking about automotive industry, we are talking about medical devices or defense, or everywhere we can find textiles. For this reason, it's very important not only to integrate the specific technological center for textiles and clothing, but as well other different technological centers, because we can integrate and have a better approach to the challenges in this way.
So, Braz, can you
Secondly,
give me a concrete example of that? What,
yes,
a company that got helped out by a tech center that you helped
yeah,
facilitate?
yeah, a big example, the so-called recovery and resilience plan in Europe was a big challenge, because we had a few weeks to define the big agendas for the future. And the cluster was the central point to understand and to move everyone to have these agendas on the field. Yeah, our activity is more related to SMEs, of course, but don't forget big companies. Big companies must be tractors, must be mobilizers of a cluster of multiple SMEs. And in this way, we are very, very accurate in this area to
Okay,
join.
so can you give me one example of either a big company or a small company, and what kind of textile was helped through that R&D connection?
Yeah, of course. A big company in Portugal is related to automotive industry, high-level cars, but they depend on the participation of several SMEs. So I can assure you, some of the solutions you can find in BMWs or Mercedes and so on are produced, are delivered to the car makers by one big company, but several companies are working in this field. For instance, as SME producing sensors to integrate in textiles, another one producing light emission elements to integrate in textiles for car makers, and so on. So these are we have several examples of this participation. Why? Because we need collaboration to have specialization. Small companies specialized in one technology, one kind of products, can be integrated in a bigger product.
Yeah,
One remark, if you allow me. Clusters can be a laboratory of public policies. So we have a small quantity of companies inside, and we can test the public policies, and we can advise, we can support as well governments.
Okay. One specific example of that.
Yeah, I have several examples, but one, the Portuguese policy for research and development in the defense area was tested before inside the cluster, and now we have a broad measure to affect all the companies in Portugal related to defense, of course.
Okay, super. Okay, obrigado. Let's come back to you shortly. Let's take a break quickly with the Slido. Let's go to Slido, the second set of Slido questions. If we can put that up on the screen. And for those who just joined us, you can connect. Can we go back to that? Yeah, so you see on the left side, you see the hashtag, or you can connect at slido.com, hashtag tech_centers. Why did you establish your cluster organization in its current location? Why in its current location? We've been talking about collocation today. We'd like to tap your brains and see how that works out there. Okay, presence of a strong industry ecosystem. Yeah, as we're looking at this, Can I get one of the panelists to comment on this? Who would like to comment on this? Is anybody, any among the panelists surprised by that? I guess it's kind of obvious, or what do you think? Can I go
Okay.
to Katarzyna?
No, Katarzyna.
Okay, my part. Yeah, the industrial ecosystem is really important because we cannot link anybody if there isn't anybody. So we need also companies that are interesting in some innovative ideas, in some innovation, not just companies. They are there because they are there. So it's a really good point to have a ecosystem and to have an open-minded companies. They want to collaborate together.
So that's more to you, more important than being close to R&D centers.
I mean, here in the region, to be close is everywhere. We have 1 hour to the capital. We have 1 hour ride to the border. So the proximity doesn't play such a big role
For the tech
because
centers.
we are near to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Let's go to slide 02. How important is the geographic proximity between clusters and tech centers? Not critical. From 1 to 5. Not critical, absolutely critical. So kind of what we just discussed. You tend to think that it's Katarzyna, you think it's not that critical, or it is because you're close to them anyway, right? So
yeah, we are close to them anyway. I mean, it's good to be here and to see it every day.
yeah,
But as I said, I just need 10 minutes by the car to the university, so it's not so important.
right,
Yep.
right.
Can I add something, Chris?
Yes, Inga, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think it's already a few years ago we had a funded project to have an idea in how for a food technological center. So the pilot plants and the demonstrators and the possibilities to show things for food companies on food processes like plant-based products. And there we did the exercise that food SMEs just want to have every 200 kilometers, they want to have something. So from the moment that your area around your technological center becomes higher than 200 kilometers, then they start hesitating to come over and to see. So you always can connect, of course, with what we are doing today with Zoom meetings. But if you really want to show something, and we have also our pilot plans where we do then the collaboration with the Technological Center and the Flanders Research Institute for Agriculture and Fisheries. We do the researchers do a pilot plant trial, and we invite the SMEs to come over to see themselves what they are doing. So they are really next to the operator, and the whole day they are talking to each other and they are looking what is happening in the pilot plant. So it's also a very important knowledge transfer during that. It's not just asking to do a pilot plant trial. No, they are standing there and doing it together with the operators of the technological center. And then we see if you're further away than 200 kilometers, it becomes more difficult to have that connection, because people have to leave at home and come over, and then they start hesitating when they have to cross borders, if they have to rent a hotel. So then you see, especially for little SMEs, it's important that it's not too far away.
Okay, but as I saw you giving, but as I saw you giving thumbs up there, I guess you have a specific example.
Because I'm completely in line with Inga position. In our case, 90% of the total textile industry in Portugal is concentrated in the northern part of Portugal. In a circle with 50 kilometers radius, you can have 90% of the companies.
That's in Porto, I guess, right? Porto.
Yes, but I'm in line, because maybe in IT areas it's not so crucial to have this proximity, but when we talk about manufacturing, prototyping, demonstrating pilot plants, and so on is crucial to have a direct contact, a daily contact, a weekly contact between companies, the cluster organizations, and technological centers.
Okay, very good. Can I come back to you, Inga? I got a question here for Flanders Cluster. How do you manage the economic aspects in the collaboration with Tech Center? Did you find an agreement, such as a success fee, or is a fee asked from companies for the cluster intermediation?
We have different ways to get our economics on a good base. One of the things that we are lucky in Flanders is that we have a very good agency for innovation and entrepreneurship, FLYO, and we are supported by them ourselves. We have some subsidy for our own coordination tasks, and they have a model of €1 for €1, so we have to find the other half of the money at the company. So we have membership fees, and we also have the coordination subsidy for FLYO, and that is already money that we can use to do the matchmaking events and to do the first introductions for the members. Then from the moment we go to a technological center, they also are members from the cluster, because the cluster is not only the industry, but also the science people, and the technological centers are also members. And then we make the connection. And for example, with the Cascade funding, then there was money from the European Commission to give to the SMEs, and then they can buy some know-how and expertise. Then the collaborative project A, Pathfinder, then it's a collective research project that we have applied for at FLYO, and then we get funds. So the Technological Research Center gets money for what they are doing. We get money for what we are doing. So that's on a cost, it's not with the margins, but it's on cost level. And then from the moment we go to the individual services to the companies, then the company will pay a fee. So, and also there, some mechanism exists, not always, but we have a lot of SME instruments in Flanders that they also can get a little bit subsidy from the Flemish government as an SME then to pay the experts at the Collective Research Center. But we don't ask success fees because for me, for us, it's like, it's our job to help the food SMEs. So we have to find the best partner for them, and they have to be okay with that, and they have to like their cluster, because then they stay on the membership fee. So it's really, that is the important part, and we need the collaboration with the technological centers or academia or whatever we need, also commercial experts. We really need the buy-in that they really want to do it for the SMEs, because a lot of, if you look to the academia, it's more difficult than technological centers, because on academic level, they don't like SMEs. They want to have projects of 4 years. They want to have PhD students. So an advantage of technological centers is that they also are interested in a question that only takes 1 day. And that they will have, and they also have experts that already 50 years old, so have a lot of expertise, and that they are willing to rent them for an SME. And that's also one of the advantages of a technological center compared with the real science and academic institutes.
Well, to be a member of this, or to pay that participation fee or the membership fee, there has to be payoff. They have to see that with time. Michael, can you comment on that as well? I mean, monetizing this, making sure that it pays off for everybody, including the cluster.
Okay, so I think what Inga said is more or less the same we are doing. So we have membership fees, and the cluster want to be a friend for our members. So yes, many activities, many services are in this membership fee. But there are, of course, some direct services for our members. Maybe one example, there are voucher system from European grants in Czech Republic. This is a simple grant scheme where one company SME can find themselves a research organization, some technological center, and ask for some services. It's relatively low cost, but also low administrative effort. So cluster can play a role in this system that facilitate this contact, prepare some administration, and have some fee for services which were done. So this is another example how it can work. Yes, and if there are some specific services for some members, we have a member price list which is different to general one, yes, because cluster also part of the financing is commercial services, not only for members. And another another part or way how to finance projects is to find some public funding from different funding scheme. Maybe we are most successful in Interreg projects, cross-border Interreg projects or Interreg Central Europe. So this is how it works mostly.
Okay, very good. I have another question. The poll results is from Tanya Suni. The poll results indicate the most clusters prioritize strong industry ecosystems over proximity to research organizations or universities. Given this, how do clusters actively integrate research and innovation results into their ecosystems? Are there specific mechanisms, incentives, or best practices that help translate RDI outputs into industrial adoption? Would one of the panelists like to talk about that? Answer that.
I think the example I gave with the AE Pathfinder, but we have a lot of that type of projects. So it's a funding scheme that we call collective research. And it's in that type of projects, we don't have to build again the knowledge. So we take the know-how somewhere on the shelves already done before. And in the project, we do the translation, and translation is really like showing the know-how you see here. For example, you have a protein, soy protein, and you want to know what can we do with it. So we then show them, if you make a powder, the powder will have that functionality. You can whip your cream. Or if you have the powder and we burn it a little bit too much, you will not be able to whip your cream anymore. So we really try to translate the R&D written in books in real recipes and real products. And this is then in that funded project, we have the persons to do that kind of research. It's also research. It's also done in the lab because we make model recipes. We try to bake bread. So then we show, we have a bread. It's a big bread. It's a small bread. So we try to make it so easy as possible for companies to understand, because our cluster is really working for companies without own R&D department. So it's not only SMEs, also bigger companies sometimes don't have their own R&D department, so they don't have those translators in home. So we find them in our collective research center, so in our technological research center. There they have it's like the extended R&D team for our food companies. So there the people are like a kind of general R&D manager for a lot of companies. So the translation is done in the technological centers in association with universities, because they also have to bring in the know-how. It's really bringing always people together. And in Flanders, we have funding for this type of projects. But Interreg you can use also for this.
Katarina or Braz, do you have an example there of that, of how integrating research and innovation results into the ecosystem?
All the relevant technological centers and universities for textile and clothing industries in Portugal belong to the cluster. So we normally have special interest groups organized, and they meet often. So this is not a problem, because they're always in contact.
But which way? What I'm curious there is which way does that go? Do you have the R&D people come up with an idea, and then you link them with an SME, or does the SME or the big company that you were talking about say, we need this, and then you link them with the R&D center that's needed to do that? Or does it go both ways?
We can identify a technology and try to understand what are the companies that can exploit this technology and put in contact, of course, in the other sense as well. But as I mentioned, the fact that we have weekly meetings in those groups establishes a direct link between companies and research centers and universities.
So to gauge who needs what and what people have.
Yes.
Bring to the table.
We have several special interest groups related to some applications or some technologies, and we meet often, put in contact all the stakeholders interested in those topics.
Katarina, I think about when you're dealing with like robotics, for instance, things like that. Do you have an example of that where you're able to integrate R&D into the ecosystem through the cluster?
It wasn't robotics, it was additive manufacturing, maybe, because we had or the R&D is there because we need to show really a real example how the additive technologies can be used and what can they bring to the SMEs. So as an example, the Comtes FHD made a project with a company here in Pilsen region to innovate their machining tools, and it's the result is that the tools are better, they're staying longer, and it's easier to manipulate with them. That's it. I mean, the researchers can write 1,000 pages about it, but if you see just an example, it's always better. So the company can use it and show it further. Yeah.
Wonderful. I need to move on to the funding opportunities, but before we do, I noticed something, Inga, or maybe we did talk about this, that you have a new Alliance BioCluster.
Yes.
Lab facilities for SMEs. Can you give me 30 seconds on that?
The new alliance that we have started on Monday.
Brand new,
brand new. But it's not my own. We are with 14 clusters, bioeconomy clusters. So bioeconomy in the broad sense, it's agriculture, agro-food, but also bio-based chemistry. Industrial biotech is the main link, I think, between us. And we really want to join. It's really a cluster, we only want clusters to sit together, and from the strengths from clusters, we want to think together with the Commission, we hope, to make better foundations for bioeconomy, because today we have a lot of legislation and regulations that are hindering the valorization of the innovations. It's very difficult to find to change laws. If you have genetic modified organism, it takes a long time before there is an adoption. So really to work together on this type of things, to be stronger against US and China with biotech, because it's the last industrial technology that we are better than US and China today. So that's the reason we want to keep that position, and that we have started the Bioeconomy Cluster Alliance.
Very good. Yeah, despite my California accent, I am a European citizen too, and I see that is very important. Braz, quick.
Just to ask Inga if this alliance is open to foreign organizations.
We are already with 14, so it's Flanders is one of them. So you have it started all with Mario Bonacorso from Italy, the cluster Spring, and there are also a cluster from Ireland, a cluster from Germany. So it's already with foreign clusters, but we focus on clusters and bioeconomy. So we really want to stick to that group, but it's just founded, so we have to start. It's a memorandum of understanding, so we have to do a lot of stuff and things to organize and make a good governance now. So
I will apply.
Yeah.
Great.
It's Cluster PBU who is already in the organization. It's a Portuguese one.
Angela, can we move? I want to thank all the panelists, Michal, Katarzyna, Braz, of course, Els, Vincent, and Michal. And Angela, do we still have time for a couple of more Slidos? I'll let you call that. There we go. Okay. In what way do technology centers support your cluster organization and your members? Access to joint R&D, use of shared infrastructure, workforce training and skill. Yeah, we've had a cluster talk on skills. That was a very interesting, very fruitful. Access to joint R&D. That seems to be the main, right? Can I quickly come back to maybe Else? Do you want to comment on that? Else or Vincent?
No, happy to comment on this.
Okay.
So indeed, in what way do I think indeed that's a correct understanding. This is also what we found in our research, that this access to joint R&D project, I think it was also emphasized by several of the panel members.
Yeah.
Having that connection between, on the one hand side, the companies, and then the technological knowledge, the know-how, how to make sure that the innovation and the knowledge developed is truly being taken up by technology centers, and then through the technology centers towards the SMEs. I think that's really essential.
Yeah, absolutely.
So indeed, I think the cluster organizations play a very important role in the entire landscape, and I think it cannot be emphasized enough the importance, as also I think Inge, but also the other members really said, like this collaboration between cluster technology centers, the SMEs, the research universities. That's really key to deploy innovation towards the market. So I think that's really something we need to foster.
Right. Okay. And the other question, have you encountered specific challenges? This is, I think, a word cloud when collaborating with tech centers, such as different objectives, applied versus basic research, infrastructure, constraints. Anything come to mind there? Have you encountered specific challenges when collaborating? Don't all jump at once. Maybe okay, there's somebody typing. Vincent, maybe you can maybe comment on that too. Specific challenges. Have you been able to map that out in your web scraping?
Well, no, to be honest, we haven't found any, and that's the reason why we've put this question here on Slido, to know more about it. Because well, our reports focused more on the positive side, let's say, and on the well, the mutual benefits.
Yes.
But then indeed we were wondering if there are any barriers. And when dealing with the mutual benefits, most of the examples that we found were indeed joint R&D projects, as I also presented in my presentation.
Okay.
And that was also one of the reasons why we had this talk today here, to hear if that's the main purpose, or if there are any others. But it turns out that that's primarily the main focus of the cluster organization and the members, is to deal with joint R&D projects. But I'm happy actually to see that there are not too many constraints.
Not too many, but I see funding there.
Yes.
That can be a bugbear there, trying to make it happen with the right money, I guess.
And administration as well.
Yeah, right. Okay, we got a couple more coming. And right after this, we're going to have funding opportunities. So that's going to address one of those aspects. Okay. Okay, last one. Hard to find mutual topics which are not core R&D. Okay, all right. All this feedback, very important for the commission, for any kind of, developing this for the clusters, for SMEs. Great input. Thank you so much. Difference in time horizons, that's as well. Yep, right. Okay, funding opportunities. Angela, please.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for all those speakers and very
really
active
great talk. Fantastic.
audience also. Yes. Okay, let's start with Cole. It's called Digital Label, one source of comprehensive information for medical technology products. You can find 2 deadlines in April and October of 2025. And the aim of this call is establishing consensus-based digital labeling framework for all classes of medical devices, in vitro diagnostic medical devices. And the project is focusing on mapping data elements, conducting usability studies to validate digital solutions, engaging key stakeholders, generating policy recommendations, and also disseminating knowledge through training materials and global awareness efforts. We find another opportunity for development of advanced key technologies. The deadline is 27 March 2025. The objective is the implementation of state-of-the-art cybersecurity technologies, and the key digital technologies are AI, big data, quantum computing, blockchain, high performance, and software defined for networking. We find another opportunity. This is the EIC Accelerator 2025. The deadline is at the end of the year in December, supporting SMEs and startups, filling up high impact innovations that have the potential to create new markets, disrupt existing ones. The applicants can submit proposals through a couple of topics, EIC Accelerator Open or EIC Accelerator Challenges. Don't forget the opportunities for the SMEs through the calls from the Euroclusters. We have the cycling water internalization. This is a Lamson grant, which deadline is the day, actually. We have also the training for engineers. We have a couple of calls for Polreg and a couple of calls of Research, and also a new one from Blue Dots with a deadline in March, and another one, the last one of FranceCI. As always, you can find all the information in the tenders portal, the funding and tenders portal, and also in the ECCP website. Thank you very much. Trace, I give you the floor back.
Great, Angela. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Make sure to register for these next talks. You can see them listed there. Register for the Cluster Collaboration Platform. Keep in mind that there's a LinkedIn discussion group that you can continue your discussion of this with. There you go. And this is recorded for playback. Slides available on the Cluster Collaboration Platform. If you missed any details, you can go back to that. I'm Chris Burns. Thanks so much for being with us. See you next time.